Welcome to the Good Intention Show, coming to you live on the UI Radio Network. The Good Intention Show is sponsored by the United Intentions Foundation at unitedintentions.org. And now, here's the truth seeker, the snake charmer, a legend in his own mind, broadcasting live all over the universe, your host, Mr. Tim Ray.
All right, back in action, in the saddle again. So hello, WDJY listeners, WTTA as well. We got an incredible show for you today. We have the Occult Priestess, the Occult Priestess coming on our show today. Now, don't let words mislead you here. It's not about the priestess of the satanic occult, but the priestess of the Buddhist nature. And occult, she'll explain that in her own dark perspective, whatever that means. So you let me know when we bring our guest in here. All right, so we are bringing, guys, Corinne Wilson. She's known as the Occult Priestess, and you can learn all about her today and what she's about, because I did have a reading with her. So it's pretty phenomenal information. You guys are going to check. You're going to really appreciate this. So start sharing now. And also, if you guys want to call in and join the party, 678-495-4345, 678-495-4345. And, maybe she could do a reading for you. Who knows? All right, guys. Corinne, can you hear me?
Good morning, Tim Ray.
Yeah, wonderful. Listen, look at this. Look at the Occult Priestess. I want to know, let's get right out the bat. The priestess, I get it, because people think Occult Priestess, they think satanic, Satanism, right? And you're the farthest from that. So priestess comes from your Buddhist lineage here, but where does the occult come from?
Well, let's go back to priestess does come from my Wiccan background.
Okay.
So I became Wiccan as a teenager.
Right.
I was exploring new spiritualities. I was brought up a Jehovah's Witness, which was very difficult on
Sure.
me. But I was always a faithful person. I always believed in God, and I knew I loved God, and I wanted to know God in any way possible. So instead of quitting religion when I left my childhood religion, I started seeking others. And through synchronicity, I was given Wicca. And there's a book called The Complete Book of Witchcraft by Raymond Buckland, and it has the 13 laws of witchcraft. And law number 12, I think it was, said, we do not believe in absolute evil, and we do not believe in an entity known as Satan. Because you must understand, most pagan traditions came before, pre-Christian.
Sure.
So that we have a character named Pan, who is the Lord of the Greenwood, who plays a flute and runs around all day and has fun, Pan, fertility.
Yeah, right.
And these are personifications or animisms of emotions that people have. And so I learned through nature, through Wicca. And that's why I became the priestess in the title of priestess.
All right.
And that is because I guided others. It wasn't just me. Once I found the path, I was asked to help others upon the path.
All right. Okay. And the occult, where'd that come from?
So the occult literally means hidden from the uninitiated. And for fun, I say hidden from muggles. So uninitiated, everything that I speak of seems to have two sides of a coin, because I am very aware of the duality and dichotomy of this world that we live in.
Right.
So you asked me about the occult. There's two different sides of that too, about initiation. What does initiation mean? I mean, it's kind of a big word, right?
Yeah, it's almost like a Masonic initiation, a satanic initiation. It could be all many different things. Anything kept secret, to me, I'm against, but I only want everything out in the open. But I want to hear your perspective on that.
I agree with your openness.
All right. Well, thank you very much for agreeing.
Sure. I really agree.
Okay.
What was that question?
The initiation, it was supposed to be called secret. So what's secret about the initiation?
Actually, the occult means hidden from the uninitiated. And you could say secret from the uninitiated. So if you asked a Freemason 100 years ago, even, what is an initiation? And they will say, I dress in a costume, I go to a lodge, and I do things with my brothers and my elders.
I can't tell anybody.
Right, right?
Yeah.
And this is
yeah.
Harpocrates.
Yeah.
The Greek god Harpocrates is keep it secret, keep it quiet.
Right.
And this has been bubble gummed recently. You know, for our modern society, a lot of things have turned into bubble gum. They're tripe. They're not what they used to be, especially the occult. So that's what a Freemason would tell you. But if you ask me what an initiation is, I would say I'm taken out of my body. I go into a heaven realm and I am initiated and I am told what is going, I see it, I'm with it. Not physical, never physical. I don't want to mislead people, but I am seeing it and experiencing it through my soul, which means I literally can see it like a movie,
Right.
but I'm in it, I'm living it. It's tactile to me, but I know the difference, and it's really different. Believe me, you know when you're in a dream. Most people
Right.
know when they're in a dream.
Well, they say our reality is a dream, and our dream is the reality, right? So your definitions of the occult is the initiation is when your soul leaves the body, which it does, I think, every night anyway. If not, you do it deliberately. Is it leaves the body and then it experiences outside of the veil in the realm. Is that what you're trying to say?
Initiation is a very specific thing, is what I was trying to get at.
All right, go get there.
Yeah, and a lot of us go through initiations, even if we're not very specifically spiritual and doing it. I mean, we're all on the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell spoke of.
Right.
We're all here to grow the soul one way or another. We're not all going to be spiritually aware, and that's totally cool with me anyway.
Right.
But the initiations are from A to B to Z, that you go through a ritual with the invisibles, which I can see them.
Yeah.
They show up to me as people,
right,
as identities.
Right.
And I know them because they're mostly ascended masters.
Right.
They're the people we've heard of since we were little. And it's a college, basically. It's an astral school. Huh. And those who do very well get very high initiations. I believe being sancted happens in heaven, not on earth.
Right. So this is fascinating because this brings in a whole nother level. Like when people have been brought about Masonic, and then you can go to level of Satanism, right, or the satanic Luciferian environment. And this is, I assume, and you correct me if I'm wrong, this is not what you're talking about. This initiation is with these energies or entities such as ascended masters. I assume you would say people like Jesus or people like Buddha, Archangel Shiva, Archangel Michael, and all. Okay, so
sure. So Michael doesn't really do initiations because he is an angel, and there is a hierarchy, believe it or not.
Oh, I want to get into that too here in a minute, but I want to understand this first part because I want to make sure I'm not confused. If I'm confused, other people may be confused. So if there's this initiation, or at least when your communication with other higher entities, how do you know that you're not communicating to darker energies and entities that are out there that are misleading you into a lot of them call them the occult practices? How do you know that?
That's a beautiful question.
Thank you.
How can you trust the person on the other side of the telephone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And when I was a teenager, I called myself a baby witch because I was just starting. I'd always been psychic, born psychic. I had sleep paralysis for 19 years. Very phenomenal kind of girl here. And then when I began the communications, it was a will. I willed it. I wanted it. I want to talk to God, please. And it wasn't always the big God that came on the phone. I'd been praying to Jehovah since I was little.
Right.
But then I was open to like, oh my gosh, there's goddesses. And it felt right with me. I knew there were goddesses. And it's like, the more I learned about ancient Greece and stuff, like, oh my gosh. So it's like rediscovering yourself and your people, so to speak.
Right.
And so at first I was attacked by a lot of dead people. And I even was attacked by a demon once, even though I didn't believe in them.
Right.
And that's a big story.
That is.
But it only happened once.
Okay.
But I want you to know that people that normally get into it that are not healthy, which you're not healthy unless you've gone through some sort of recovery from your childhood,
Right.
you are going to attract the negative ancestors from your family line. So you have to deal with getting the darkness out before you can talk to the light. It's
Wow.
true.
Well, listen, this is such a fascinating topic. We're going to pick this up after we get back from break here, Corinne, and take it to the next level, because I think if we understand the dark side, and perhaps we could shine light on it at the same time,
Exactly.
understand the light side. Guys, we're talking to
From
the
darkness to light.
darkness to light. We're talking to the occult priestess, Corinne Wilson. All right, we are back in action with Corinne Wilson, the occult priestess. We just learned about the occult and the priestess terminology here, and how we left off distinguish between when you're communicating with a higher energy that's positive or loving versus a higher energy that's manipulative or lower vibrational, but disguising as one that's higher. And I see that'll happen all the time, or at least I hear stories about that. So, Corinne, you seem to, over the years, I guess you've been fooled once, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? So
I had a wonderful paranoia about channeling something into my body.
Gotcha.
I had known about the spiritualist since I was little. I listened to Art Bell since I was little. And the 1800s people, early 1900s, the mediums, all that stuff always freaked me out. Thank goodness. I think it was sleep paralysis that kept me away from anything dabbling darkness, because I was inundated. I was attacked by darkness.
Right. So you learn that way, and then you learn to
It made me very
distinguish.
sensitive to darkness.
Gotcha. And so here it is, and you seek light. You seek love and positivity at this.
I am light.
You
so
are
I
light.
bring light.
Oh, see that? You're a life bringer. I love it. So here it is. And you got to the point where you believe that you're not able to be fooled by anything darker than where you are right now. You're a light bringer in that sense. So
There's absolutely no fooling going on here.
Yeah, exactly. No fooling,
Now I'm in a spiritual warfare, so I take that stuff down.
No tomfoolery anymore here.
Not at all.
All right. So speaking of spiritual warfare, do you actually believe there is beyond the veil a fight for our souls, a fight for good versus evil, polarity, one and the other?
Yeah, it didn't start off necessarily as a fight.
Okay.
But now that we're at this stage, it is good versus bad, so better be good for goodness sake.
So what is the stage? Why don't you describe a little bit, set the stage for the stage that we're in from your perspective?
Well, you've heard other people talk about ascension and even graduation. As a Buddhist, but also as a psychic, somebody who has a master teacher guide, Hermes Trismegistus, he shows me visions that have already happened of the future. And he tells me something very interesting, that the dimensions are merging. This has never happened. You might believe that in Atlantis, there was a rip in the dimensions. This is actually a naturally occurring birthing process of the new humanity into higher dimensional consciousness.
Wow.
But you must understand, here we are on Earth. Then there's the realm of the dead, which we call the bardo, and then heaven. So you kind of got to go through hell to get to heaven.
Well, that's what they talk about, the dark tunnel to see the light. Because, even the book of Tibetan, the book of the dead, the Tibetans, they say there is this, you got to fight for you got to through this darkness part of these entities trying to get you before you get to heaven, whatever that may be, or to the higher level. So that kind of makes sense.
And we're all here to grow the soul. That's the point of incarnation.
Sure. Okay, so back to what you're saying in reference to this, the walls are getting thinner. It's just the same kind of concept. People say that beyond the veil, it is getting thinner. And so these dimensions are actually starting to meet. The fourth dimension meets the third dimension, meets the fifth dimension, wherever it may be. So this is a thinning of the veil beyond our five senses. Like our five senses as human beings, as limited they are, bandwidth they are, limits our ability to see past, for the most part, unless you are psychic such as yourself, limits our ability to see past beyond our three-dimensional world to whatever degree. And you're saying is other dimensions are starting to blend into this one. So now, as a limited, say, I'm not a psychic, but as a limited human being, I'm going to start experiencing, seeing, ghosts and and all the demons behind Wahid right now or something. But I'm going to be actually experiencing this, and like millions of others, billions of others will be too as well. That's kind of
Well,
scary.
we
That's
see
kind
it
of scary.
already.
It's kind of scary
We
in a
do see it
sense. Okay.
because you see the dichotomy of like the political stuff has never been. Political stuff is always polarized, but it's
Yeah.
never been this polarized. There's more policing going on. It is looking more like 1984 out there, more of
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
everything's closing in. And I believe that that's part of the merge. And like I said, you got to go through hell before you get to heaven. And really, all you need to do is heal yourself and look into yourself and heal the childhood stuff and everything. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to heal the world. Just you, baby. Just you.
Okay, I think that's wonderful. That's kind of a relief off of many people's mindset, because if here the walls are getting thinner, people are going to see things that seem crazy or out of this world, and some people are going to be very much focused in fear. I would assume you see that. Is that Hermes? Your
Great fear and paranoia, but these are all things. If you my belief system, which is a fact system, hello, it's very hard to explain in that sense that I'm not just believing in this stuff. Like I
Right.
really know it.
Okay.
That every karma is going to come home to roost. Karma only means action. If you have done good actions in the past and now, then it's going to continue that way. That's not going to change. But for those people who have had 1,000 incarnations and have not grown or learned through this process will be the ones who have the most problems.
That's
And
fascinating.
also, I want to tell people
Yeah.
they might think they were a bad person in a past life. If you are a good person in this life, it is almost 100% that you have been a good person in all your lives. So
Interesting.
take that guilt right off of you.
Right, right. And of course, I think people like Daniel Brinkley, who wrote the book Saved by the Light, talks about
Oh,
that
yeah, I know Daniel.
we have this panorama view of our life when we die, and we see all the things that we didn't do or that we did do that we're not happy about, and we experience it. And I guess we're supposed to learn from that each lifetime, right?
Sure, but I actually, at age 30, I read all of my diaries. I was 14 when I started writing, all the way to age 30. And that's my perspective. I had that life review, basically. And I think we should all be doing life reviews. And I
Right.
think that's also what the new year's about, review the last year. But everyone needs to take that time to review their whole life.
Wow, I'm just trying to figure out what happened in the last 15 minutes. I can't imagine going
That's
back
what
and
counselors like I do. We can take you back to
Right.
when you were 5 and
Right.
when there was trauma and
Right.
hold your hand and get you through it with love and light.
Right. Well, I love that, and I love that, and I think that's part of, like you said, your gift you're giving to the world now, and
Yes.
sharing that. So it's amazing how out of darkness people could find their light and deliver the light and to share the light. And I think that's
And
happening.
grow light, we can cultivate love. It's like a flower. You can cultivate
Go
it.
cultivate it.
It can be so loud that it takes over the world.
Right. Sure.
Love.
No, I think it's fascinating, and what I find even more fascinating is here we are in this three-dimensional world that's getting the walls are getting thinner. We're seeing more than ever before, and yet you're saying people who have been living a wholesome, healthy, loving type of life will be accentuated to be even more at that point, or will just be everything's the same old, same old.
Oh, well, I don't believe same old same. I think that went out the window the minute Trump became president. I think we went into the other dimension right about then.
Okay.
Nothing's real anymore. And that's fun because honestly, I think
See, I thought that happened with Jimmy Carter back then, but maybe I'm just I'm just a little bit behind times. Ever since then, things have changed.
Yeah, and I'm a skeptical kind of girl. I got 6
Yeah.
planets in air. I'm an Aquarius. I'm very scientific. But when you know something, it
Yeah.
kicks the scientist out of the room.
Right.
So I do believe that our reality is changing and how we interact with reality is changing. And when it's good, you're a good person, you're doing good stuff, whatever, it's going to be more like a fairyland, I believe, and not a space land. So I see that fairy and aliens are fighting for the narrative.
Oh, fascinating concept. So you're right, and based on the energy being experienced collectively in the world, either one will show up. And is it as individualized? as well as on the collective level? Like, say there's 30% type of fairy energy frequency, and there's 70% alien negative frequency. So would the one dominate the other, or each person have their own experience here in this world?
Oh, I believe the truth will out, and Gaia, our Earth Mother,
Yeah.
will inform us through osmosis, alien versus predator versus the fairy. And I believe it'll be a natural unfolding, and we'll all see it together. So it's something that to be excited about, and not to second guess too much or try to figure it out too much.
Right.
It's like a present. It's like a gift.
Yeah, my understanding is if you're not in fear, and you're sharing your light, whatever your light may be, and whatever chaos may be going around you, but it's not going to be affecting you in the sense it would affect somebody else who's not sharing their light, who's lost in fear, who's lost in darkness for whatever reason.
That's an inner effect.
Inner effect.
But we have outer circumstances that do affect us. You can be, I'm extremely happy on the inside,
right?
But I have difficult circumstances, so I'm not always circumstantially happy.
All right, so the floods could be happening, the buildings could be burning, and we'll still experience that, but we'll still be happy inside, you're saying?
I will be, because I'll understand. Those who are in confusion, they'll have that dark night of the soul, but it means that they've been ignoring it and they hadn't had it until then.
Right.
So they'll have a collective dark night of the soul together. But I emotionally will not be a part of that.
Right, sure. And many others who have done this type of awakening and work, you're saying.
Yeah, we're here to help them.
Yeah, but I would say perhaps the majority of the people will not be in that. We'll be experiencing the dark night of the soul, as you say. But from the dark night of the soul, do we grow?
Of course, everything's growth. You're growing every moment, every breath you take. You are growing.
But
you're changing. You are evolving.
But I, like probably billions of others, would like to grow without that type of level of pain. Like
too bad. You ate an apple, and you're going to know the difference between good and evil. And that's the way it goes.
It wasn't me. It was Eve, man. She did it.
No,
it wasn't me.
You ate it because you're here. Where's Eve?
Yeah, where's Eve? Where is she?
I don't see her. It's you, buddy. It's you.
Oh man, me and the apple. What was I thinking?
You can learn the difference, and you can get to the graduation point, and then have even more life after that. It's not like you have to wait to die to get to heaven.
Right. Well, listen.
Heaven's on the inside.
And so, do you believe in heaven on earth?
I do. That's the merge. But you got to go through hell first. And that's why I keep saying that, because the New Age never speaks about the fourth dimension. The scientists call it a realm of time. And it is not a realm of time. It is a ghost realm. Okay,
so, and this is that realm between here and heaven, you're saying. This is what a lot of people talk about.
Middle ground.
And why doesn't the New Age movement talk about this fourth dimension, this hell that we have to go through? Why?
It doesn't sell books. It doesn't make money.
Really? I guess so.
Why does the New Age not talk about 12-step and recovery from alcoholism? How can you be a Reiki master and still be an alcoholic? These things are not working together.
Interesting. It's almost like they're avoiding the dark side of it all.
Thank you. They're avoiding themselves, and that's what they've always done, and they're continuing to do it. And obviously, I'm very passionate about that.
Sure.
Because they're teaching people wrongly, in my opinion.
Well, hey, listen, everyone has their opinions, and yours sounds somewhat logical on that level. And, the denial-based positive thinking is something I think a lot of New Agers get lost in, too, You've
got to address your problems. Yeah. You can't live in a bubble. It was...
Hold that thought, Corinne. We're going to take a break. Hold that thought. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
When we get back, let's pick up where we left off. Fascinating conversation, guys. We're talking to the Occult Priestess, Corinne Wilson. She is sharing some of her wisdom with us right now, that we're all going to have to go through hell to get to heaven. What do you think of that? Sit on that for a minute on break. We'll be right back. We are back on air. Wahid, fascinating conversation, huh?
Oh, yes. I love this type of stuff.
Davie, fascinating conversation, huh?
Yeah, man. It's good. We've been up since
4 in the morning,
so.
Man. That's our Michael Jackson, Davy Crockett impersonation there. And guys, welcome. It only gets better. We're having way too much fun. We are, guys, we're talking to Corinne Wilson. She's the occult priestess with an incredible sense of humor because I spoke to her at length last night. And what a great soul and what a great person who's coming through from a different perspective than we normally would hear about. From her background, Wiccan and things like that. And I know people look at Satanism, they associate that with Satanism right away, and they look at the situation and but there's so much more. You got good witches, bad witches. You got, it's just a matter of learning how to handle this information. And what if it's true? What if it's true that we have to go through hell before we get to heaven? I mean, a lot of different groups believe that. And it seems like in this lifetime, things are hard for the most part, and is it just this lifetime is hell, or is there something that we're going to have to experience more hell before we even get to that point of knowing we truly are, our true self? I don't know. Let's ask Corinne this. So, Corinne, is it just hell here on earth in our mindset and belief system and our experiences, or is it something really physical hell that we have to go through before we could truly connect with our higher self?
So we do have a personal demon, if you will, which is the unhealthy ego. The healthy ego is fine. It bathes us, it pays our bills, it keeps us alive. These are things we need because we're souls in bodies. So we do need this beautiful ego. But when it is sick, it becomes compromised and it becomes like a beast, like a werewolf, like a beast.
Give me an
And I
example,
believe-
like a sociopath or something, or a pedophile.
Sure, pick one.
All right, pick one. Yeah, okay, I got it now.
And then there's variations of sickness. An alcoholic isn't necessarily an evil person. They're self-medicating and they're sick. So, and you could argue that all evil on some level is sickness
right.
in people. However, on this planet, in this dimension, with the apple lesson, evil was let loose. So it's the big tempter. And if you start going with the tempter, then you're going to lose light, and you'll lose it bit by bit, and you will notice it, and you will choose again and again, light or dark, until you get to where you're going.
This is the
choose your own adventure.
This is the Luciferian oversight. You're saying the temptation of the Luciferian temptation.
Sure. I mean, these are languages. These are words.
Nevertheless, people, like I said, people get addicted to heroin. People get addicted to sex.
Right.
People get addicted to
because
alcohol.
Because they were traumatized in their childhood. You don't grow up a perfect child and then go get heroin. It's self-medication.
And what's
because you're traumatized.
What's your thoughts on past life influences and issues? The sins of the generation of the sins of the father being passed on down.
Well, sins of the father is different because that's bloodline and has usually, unless you're not, elite people usually incarnate in the same bloodline, same family, life after life. It's like their thing. But we don't. We migrate. I've been Egyptian, I've been Greek, I'm Native American now.
That's interesting. So there's actually different levels of incarnations that you believe that, like you said, bloodline incarnations. Is that because they learned how to manipulate the incarnation process, or is that just...
That is quite possible, but
right.
I can only conjecture because I literally have not found one, tortured one, and got the answers.
Well, start with the Rothschilds, would you? And then then work your way down to the Rockefellers. But
these are merely puppets of evil, and I go after evil itself. It's a force.
The energy behind them, the invisible energy that you can't, like Plato, you can't really put your fingers on them, right? Or water.
Plato. Well, I'm pre-Plato, pre-Christian, and I believe we can see these things. We can feel them, and it's just that we're in a state of collective denial that I believe we're all psychic, and it's collective denial.
Right, and a lot of people don't look at or see their own psychic skill set or ability because of fear.
Okay.
Is that right? What do you believe?
I don't know. I haven't met a lot of people that are afraid. If they believe in God, my clients who believe in God grow much quicker than the ones who believe in science over God.
Ah, interesting.
So there's a force of good.
Yeah.
And there's a force of ignorance, if we will, or Saturn, with restriction. And you're either choosing restriction or expansion.
Huh. Interesting. So,
and my spirit guide had me take a note. How is this action serving me with love, basically? Because a lot of us people, spiritual people, give too much and we're martyrs torturing ourselves for other people. And we have to get back to self-love, self-care, not in an egoic way, but in an actual parenting, I love myself kind of way. And when we get that solid, then we can start helping others.
And
But we really take care of ourselves.
And that's the difference between the satanic "do what thou wilt" versus connecting with that higher source and really loving yourself and not forcing it.
The satanic is exactly the fall of the angels. They wanted to be like God. They wanted to be better than God. I think that's impossible for many scientific reasons.
Yeah.
It's actually impossible. And so it's like a negative force saying F you to love and going away. And there needed to be room for that in the universe. And now we have it.
Huh. So in essence, this darkness is helping us grow.
That's the point. Lotuses only grow in the dark and in the mud.
It's a good symbolism there. So if you had to give humanity some advice right now, what would the advice be?
So know thyself.
Occult Priestess. Ooh, that's old Greek saying on the, where was that located?
The Oracle of Delphi.
Oracle. Yeah, Delphi. So know thyself. Really, that's we've known this for thousands of years.
You're not going to find yourself in a book. You're going to find yourself in nature. Quiet. Get quiet. That's the biggest thing against the Western mind. They can't get quiet.
Yeah, it is. It is almost epidemic, isn't it?
But I help with this, and there are other people like me, light workers, and we actually can help you in an afternoon. You don't have to sit on our couch for 5 years.
Right. There's something to that where, I think if psychiatrists, psychologists don't get on the bandwagon of understanding our spiritual nature, I think they're just doing more harm than they are trying to help, because they're staying in their head. Like we talked about, the psychology, the original meaning of psychology was the study of the soul, and has turned into the study of the intellect. How much damage do you think that has done to our society?
Well, it actually empowers the beast in man. The left brain only is very calculating, no compassion, has no feelings, and will dissect animals. You understand, it's kind of this demented,
it seems normal at the time. Yeah, it seems normal, but you look at it from a bigger picture, it's like it's barbaric, right?
Or when you look at it from a child's perspective, and you must be like a child to get into heaven.
Right. Well, think about that. What we do, like people complain about aliens eating humans all the time, right? That in the circles that I run around in, I'm like, but look at what we do to little calves. We stick them in a closet, keep them in the dark all day long, take them out, slaughter them, we have veal. And I mean, that seems, imagine you explain that to a child, they would never eat veal again, right?
Well, farming is farming.
Yeah, farming.
But what we're doing now is mass manufacturing farming, which is really scary. But actual farming is okay.
Yeah, so you're saying on that level, when you have the animals that are willing to sacrifice themselves to us, I mean, how does that work?
When it's smaller, right? Because you're in a small community, you have 3 goats, and it's all small. But when you are trying to manufacture everyone else's food, then you know that your system is out of control. This is not how nature works.
So once again, going back to nature, getting grounded, getting still, as you say, is most important.
Quiet.
Getting quiet, right?
Quiet.
And then listening to what? And how do you know you listen to the right people here?
The first thing that's going to come up is my mom hit me when I was 4. The first thing that's going to come up is all your trauma. And that's why it's nice not to have to go through this alone, to go through this with someone who's been through it.
Sure,
They don't have to be a professional counselor.
Right. Yeah, I have a whole nother approach about that these days more than ever before. I think this whole doctor, and you got to have this certification, you got to have all that. I just think that's more of a control mechanism than actually an effective mechanism. Because I think, like you said, you could go talk to you for an hour and things could just change immediately. Or you could spend the next hour for the next, 52 weeks, and, you kind of where you were when you started. It just depends on the circumstances, right? And take into account the spiritual aspect of healing, not just the physical, intellectual aspect of healing.
Right, the emotional. And the thing about a light worker is we actually have more light physically in our bodies. So you are actually you're feeding off of us. We're giving you light. And that is a Shakti pot. That's what we call it in Buddhism and Hinduism, Shakti pot. So it's an energy transmission between a light worker and you. And it just makes everything smoother and gentler because you are a sincere seeker, you have found a teacher, and you are on a path.
Fascinating. Wow, it's almost like this is a new school of thought or new.
It's an old school of thought.
It's an old school of thought.
In fact,
it's an old school of thought in a new school box, right?
Correct, because everything has been turned into bubblegum, like I say. So I'm going to bring it back and give it the form it used to have.
Okay, so what's your take on religions then? Just Orthodox religions.
Most of them are a system of control created by Rome.
Okay, but even Hinduism, I mean, it's a caste system. That's a man-made control system.
It came way before. Yeah, when did the caste system start? The Hindu cycles of humanity came way before time was recorded. I mean, they are the oldest, as far as I know.
Right.
That we have contact with, and their wisdom hasn't even been tapped. They've mapped out the entire energetic system of the body. They can see, their doctors back in the day, thousands of years ago, could see the energy bodies because we were in a higher vibration. So their information is still pertinent, and if we had it in our Western culture, if it was allowed to be in our Western culture, we wouldn't have all the sickness that we have.
Do you think most of our religions have been perverted by man over the centuries, over the decades?
Of course, and it's a system of control. But if you go back to the oldest teachings, then you can still hear the music, man. You can still hear it, and then you can catch the tune, and then the synchronicity starts, and you're back on the old path.
So what gives you hope these days? What gives you hope that maybe humanity may be rising to the occasion? Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're hopeless.
I used to think about the collective all the time. In fact, I could hear dead people and my friends even in my head talking about things, and I had to disconnect. So because it's healthy to disconnect and be an individual person. So I honestly don't think or fantasize anymore about what's going to happen to the collective on a physical level. I know that God loves us, and it's all going to be very good. You know what I mean in the end?
Yeah,
when we're off Earth or whatever. But even on Earth, if you have faith and you are working that and you are reaching out for something bigger than you that loves you more than you can imagine, you're going to be on a better track.
Right. Wow. You know, we're going to take another break here, but let's talk about how we could help bring information, light, which is information, right, to those folks who are lost in fear of worrying about what's going to happen to the physical collective. Because, I mean, every other movie coming out of Hollywood where you live, or in LA, is all about the end times, the apocalypse, the destruction of the world, and, you know, and the wars and everything else we got going on here. And let's talk about, what can people do from going within? Could they stop, or could they prevent something on a physical collective level, or it doesn't really matter? So we're going to find out, guys. We're talking to the Occult Priestess, Corinne Wilson. Much more to come, guys. Hang in there. Only got about 15 minutes left, so you better start tuning in and start sharing now. We'll see you in a minute.
WDJY, or 107.3 FM, WMTA in Kentucky. Think big, dream big, because every dream is dream-worthy.
Let's shake it up a little bit. Let's shake it up. Bring on hell. Come on. What else you got for me? That's what we're talking about, guys.
That's the attitude I want.
We got to go through hell to get to heaven, and who we're doing it with is with Corinne Wilson, the Occult Priestess. And what a fascinating conversation. I mean, it really is. You're a fascinating person, fascinating human soul, and I'm so glad you're here today, and in this world, to perhaps share more of this wisdom and light for others to hear. So we left off talking about the collective. And you said you don't worry so much now about the physical aspect of what's going to happen to the collective. Unfortunately, the other 7.4 billion, 99 million do. You know, so let's talk about the physical collective of one. Why is it so bad to focus on the physical collective of what's going to happen to us? Or not bad, but why does it not serve us? And two, how can we shift people? If it doesn't serve us, how can we shift people to focus away from worrying about what's going to happen to them physically, but more so what they can do internally.
So, whenever you've been at a crisis point, like I'm talking breaking your head type of crisis, you get really alone for at least a few minutes, no matter who's around you, no matter like someone died, no matter who's mourning. There are moments when you are very, very alone in the sadness, in depression. And that's usually the only time people find their alone spot, right? They're not intentionally trying to go within because they know there's boogie monsters in there and there's childhood fears and difficulties. So, what I think the New Age has done is to tell people it's okay to brush over and sweep that and stuff under the carpet and just create your own reality right now, which you can do, but it will make you a shallow person and you won't learn much. You won't grow much, but you'll be protected. What's more important to you, your protection or your soul growth?
Interesting. So with soul growth, but there's so many things that us mere humans are so focused on. Like we want to, get married, and we don't want to, we want to have children, we want to have a house, we want these basics, and we got to make decisions, as you have to make decisions every day of what you want to have and to experience, and if you isn't it a balance of your soul growth and then of course your physical manifestation of the things that you want to experience, because otherwise, some people, could focus on soul growth and meditation and never get married or be late to marry or late to, if that's what they wanted, or, to have so many other, get lost in the physical world of business and career and not have a good balance there. I mean, how do you balance that? Or is there a balance?
Yes, of course. These are your priorities. So I have about 6 days a month where I have to be in this world and of it, do all the bills and do all the work. And then I get a break to be able to be the astral astronaut that I am and get to go back and forth at will. However, the householders that you are describing, people that want to have families and just be happy and love and have a nice little life, all they have to do is go through recovery. All they have to do is heal their childhood. Then they're done. They're done. That was their purpose here, and they did it. Great. Wonderful. I am talking about people who are much more serious about their soul and what's going on. People who are called. Not everybody's called to this.
Right. Because there's some people go through the whole lives never even really understanding what their soul is or even wanting to explore it. They live
and it's totally cool for them.
Right. Yeah. But not for the others. Okay. So here I am. I'm very fear based. I'm looking at this world in potential collapse. I'm looking at the disasters. I'm thinking about all potential worst case scenarios. How do I get myself out of that process of worrying about the physical collective?
The reason why people worry about the physical collective is to deny that they are worrying about themselves. This is a form of projection. So the world is so bad and so terrible. Well, guess what? They're not in your living room. They're not in your bedroom. You are. And that's taking self-responsibility. And it's actually wearing your crown chakra and saying that I'm sovereign. I'm not a part of a cult, even if it's a cult of humanity. I am me. And like I said, when you get into that deep, alone place, there's nobody who can reach in there except for divinity. And that's the real place where we grow at.
Wow, beautifully stated. Well done. And so I strongly recommend everybody floating therapy for all. Floating therapy for all. And so it is, if people do have a hard time meditating, a hard time being still. And that's just a given of our distractions of the shiny objects outside of ourselves. And when some people just hate to be alone, if they're alone, they hate to be with other people. So it's almost like it's a push and pull. They want to be with other people all the time, but they don't want to be with just anybody. They want to be with somebody who they can vibrate in frequency. And the reason why they're not attracting that person in their lives is because of what? Trauma.
They haven't fixed themselves. Obviously, first you go within, but you will attract people. You will attract lessons. You will attract the most handsome bad boys and bad girls in the world, the boogeyman, to give you more lessons. So you're going to attract these things. The more in desire your ego is, the more you're going to attract these lessons, dude.
As simple as that. Love it. So what are some of the techniques that you use to help people deal with their trauma and to also grow as a human to focus on them and not worry about what's going on around them?
Most of my clients have no problem in self-focusing. A lot of people are selfish.
Yeah. It's all about me,
And
me,
this
me, me,
actually
me.
works.
Yeah, it
It
actually
works in a
helps.
spiritual way. It's actually really good. Because when you're self-focused, then you have that ability to get the collective out of your head. So that's great. And that's actually an advantage.
Right.
I don't have that advantage. I'm a very other-focused person because I know I'm here for them, right?
Right, right.
But how do I do it? I love them as a God parent, and I take them into a state where they're not awake or asleep. They're kind of in between, but they're in charge, they're in control. And then I allow the third eye to tell me the story of what is hurting them and where it started. And then we get right in there, and that's why it's non-material, it's not physical, because I can see it. We get right in there and we love that sucker until it's ready to mature.
So you're kind of you're assisting in the process, giving that
the soul,
giving that extra boost of light, right? And to where they could actually see their own light, and then they on their own they could take off and fly. And
most definitely, I never want to have students that hang around forever. This is a graduation process.
Right. Sure. This
and
is
a pay it forward process.
Pay it forward. So well, I'm going to ask you a question to think about is what's next for you. But in the meantime, if people want to reach you and learn more about what you do, what's the best way?
TheOccultPriestess.com. Is that correct? OccultPriestess.com.
What a marketer.
I'm all over the internet. If you look me up, I've been on the internet since 1994, so I'm all over the place. It's easy to find me. That's not a big deal. The thing is, what can I do for you? That's really what I want to know.
All right. Well,
how can I help you? How can I bring more light?
True server, true light bringer. So what's next for you, Corinne? I mean, if there's anything that you're thinking of, or you just stay in the present moment. I mean, do you think about what you want to be doing, and for you, because I know you feel this is your purpose. Your purpose is to do what you're doing. But I think many people have multiple purposes in life. Or do you believe that?
I'm extremely mission oriented. I'm on a mission from God to change the media.
The Blues Brothers, man. Come on.
What's that?
The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Jake and Elroy, or whatever his name is.
Elwood.
Elwood. There you go. You know.
Elwood.
He knows him better than I do. So what's next time for you?
So being on this mission of media, I believe Hermes is getting my foot in the door everywhere he can. And we're just going to teach consciousness. And I'm on the journey. And I've seen the future. It's pretty awesome. And it's so bright. I got to wear shades, man.
So conscious media, you see this is the next endeavor?
It definitely is. The new media all across the board. Everybody doesn't have to be conscious. Sometimes we need conspiracy theorists up in there, right?
Yeah. Bring my conspiracy brothers and sisters involved there. Yeah. So,
that's right, because we're merging New Age, disclosure, UFO, and conspiracy. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for like 15 years for this merge to happen.
Well, if you think about it, but based on what you're saying, if to be true, that if these dimensions are, I don't know, collapsing or merging, you're going to need these Marines. You're going to need the ones who've been screaming about conspiracies and aliens and all the other jazz for the last, 30, 40 years to be there to help process this experience, right?
100%.
Right. Well,
you got it. You see it. You see what I see. Yes.
Yeah. And I tell you what, and we all look up to our different people that we know. Like I have my own group that I look up to, and I say, wow, man, I really like Dr. Bruce Lipton or even, the David Icke's out there who have influenced me over the last 30, 40 years. I'm like, wow, they were so ahead of their time even back then. And here I am. Yeah. And here I am sharing my information now, and people looking at me, well, he's ahead of the time. I'm like, well, how could I be ahead of time? They were ahead of time way then, But what's your advice right now for people to try to engage in this merging of the dimensions and prepare themselves? I know you said to go within, but is there anything else they could do outside of maybe through conscious media or any other potential things they could be doing?
Well, you're saying, can they do something outside of themselves, actionable? And I'm telling you, that's the problem. Please tie yourself up in the basement for a week, and then you'll be enlightened.
Or dead.
You know what I mean.
Or dead, or one or the other,
Don't try to save the world when you haven't saved yourself.
Listen, that's the best advice, and they teach us that with on the flight attendants, right? And I was a flight attendant, but they teach you to always put the mask on yourself first for your kid, because you can't save anyone else if you're dead, right? So
because it's a form of denial. These wonderfully intentioned people are going out and changing the world, but they are hurting inside. So that is like cancer trying to cure cancer. It's not going to happen.
Amen. Well, I'll tell you what, Corinne, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you so much for allowing me to get to know you. And I'm looking forward to more time and more energy with you, and to help share the light that you're sharing as well. And until then, God bless and Godspeed with you. All right.
Tim Ray, you are a ray of sunlight. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you, Corinne. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. We got some more shows coming up today, or no? This is it. Well, I'm a heavenly